Good morning, welcome to this morning's Outlook. This is Kim Watson speaking. Okay, what's the time? Is it 7:46 on Tuesday? Let's have a look at what's coming out today. So I'm actually just looking. There's very little really. German IFO business climate at 9 o'clock. Flash manufacturing later. Let me just check my other news of picture because we got Bank of England Ramsden speaking at 10:45. Can't see that on the list here, so we do have a speaker at 10:45 just to be aware of. Okay, that's the main news for today. Tomorrow we've got our Reserve Bank of New Zealand data coming out, so you might be watching your New Zealand dollar. It might start moving today, but as I say, key today really maybe a bit of flash manufacturing and services data that was left over from yesterday for the US today at 2:45 as well. That could create a bit of volatility. So a couple of impact things there. Of course, the biggest impact situation to these markets at the moment is the geopolitical actions going on in Ukraine, and that is continuing to with Russia now supporting and maybe moving troops into parts of Ukraine. It's now becoming quite sort of edgy, to say the least. Anyway, just bear that in mind. Right, so and that will, I mean, yesterday we saw a spike in the euro in like 1 minute 30 seconds. It triggered into a trade and closed the trade in 1 minute 30. It was unfortunately, it went one way, it went the other way and stopped me, but it did happen. Some people got slips a little bit, but unfortunately in these markets we can't determine exactly when someone like Putin's going to speak. So you just got to trade what you trade or don't trade it. Anyway, let's get on, look at the currencies themselves first. Currencies, well, looking at the euro dollar. Euro dollar's not telling me too much. It's heading down towards the monthly pivot. A break below that would also give us a lower high in this time frame here. I'm finding it easier to trade from the 4-hourly. Yesterday, in the end, we got a complete reversal bar coming in on the 4-hourly, and I used that as an option to get short with some other criteria, but managed to get short off of that. But I'm out of the trade. It was a day trade, so it wasn't a massive trade. It was just an opportunity at the time. That one did work out fine. But where are we now? We're sitting. I'm still looking at this regression channel at this stage. It's just based on the highs and the lows, and it's coming back towards its mean. Its weekly S1 is below. It does look like that could be at least a target, partial target. We might see more coming through. Any sort of risk back on situation could see this rally quite quickly. So there is a significant risk trading throughout the current period. Okay. Euro also hasn't yet. It's not got either its daily pivot or its S1. It's most likely to get, well, at least the daily pivot has the highest probability, but the S1 is pretty close. So very close to being hit. The pound, it's staying in its range. Again, yesterday it managed to rally in the morning when I was talking. It was a case of risk off. Risk back on, and everyone was trading, and then it's risk off in the after as soon as we start developing into the day. And we really are going to be led each day during the day. So lower high here. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter as well if you want sort of occasional updates. I haven't done too many recently, but in the current situation, I might just put a comment on there. Twitter details at the bottom of this YouTube video. Okay, so lower highs here on the 4-hourly, breaking through, hit its weekly pivot, and well, it does look soft as well. Already moved quite a long way. It's through it's S1 already through to 200. Maybe we'll look back at this and say, well, it found support on its 200, but it has got this sort of combination of MAs, moving averages here, but it does look to me soft. We've broken back out of this sort of previous regression channel trend line, and well, it's looking soft on the pound as well. Maybe it's a case of selling into retracements. The yen's difficult for me to follow largely, but it has started doing something more of a trend. It is currently sitting into its S1. Still got weekly pivot above, which I'd love to sell into, but it doesn't look like it's going to get into that. The range is so tight at the moment. The line of least resistance, really, or support as it may be in this case, is to the downside. It has been seeing, or has seen, money flows running into the yen as a safety currency. Aussie dollar is now a bit like the pound in terms of on the road to nowhere. It seems it's, I don't know, it's had a bit of bounce. We're still seeing commodity currencies do okay. It was sort of leading the way yesterday for a lot of the time, but you can just see on the lower time frames how choppy it really is. So difficult one here. A rally, any sort of risk back on, could see it rallying back into these prior highs. It might be a bit more interesting as it gets towards those. You look on the 4-hourly time frame, upper time frames. It was in a decent trend and is in a decent trend. It's just consolidating here with all dressed up and nowhere to go at the moment. Canadian dollar, all revved up and nowhere to go. Whichever. Sorry, just come out the Canadian dollar just a step further. You can just see this consolidation continuing. A break of the highs, I think, will probably hit potential stops and get things triggering a little bit to the upside. It's sort of resisted it so far. There's this sort of trend line I drew across the highs there. Well, that's let me just check. Yeah, sitting sort of across the dailies as well. That might come into and provide resistance as we push up that way. But the US dollar is certainly strengthening here against the Canadian dollar at the moment and looking soft. In fact, let me just drag that a little bit further. You see it's sort of really running in from taking the two first hits there. It's broken there, didn't run out, tested. To me, it's a reasonable line. It's probably reacting back to it at the moment, but looking like it might break that and then push up for the. I'll put another trend line on here. It's more of a distant trend line, which might, as I say, gain a few more buy orders. Okay, that's the majors there. Let's have a look at gold, commodities. So gold continued to shove yesterday, pushed up further. Today it's run into its R3. Now this, we don't see these broken too often, but it in the current circumstances, well, there's reason for it to be still quite bullish. Consolidating where it is at the moment. It's got an untouched weekly pivot. If the risk was to start to come back on, we might see gold pulling back to that area. I say that area because last month we saw it fall slightly short. Last week we saw it fall slightly short. May give it an opportunity down there. The divergence continues. I talked about the divergence across. We've got double divergence now, but it still hasn't broken that low, and to me it's still got more potential upside. Bit messy where it's sitting here into that R3. You can see the monthly R3 here just coming down to the 60-minute time frame. Bit on the messy side. Yes, we might get a bit more correction. Daily pivot's a little bit lower at 1901, so that might provide some support at that level. Still won't have broken those prior lows from the divergences. Okay, that's gold. Oil. So oil yesterday pushed up once again. Pushed up quite late in the day, as I remember rightly. I was looking at it at 2 and it wasn't really doing too much. It's got into a better shape here again, and I think with the current risk situation, it's got potential to push. Again, I prefer to trade this up post 2 o'clock, so I'll be watching it. I do miss out on some trades because of being so stubborn, but I do miss out on a lot of losses as well. So yesterday there it was 2 o'clock. It was running into that trend line. It sort of flicked through 3 o'clock. I didn't look back. But it did go later and it took out the prior highs. Didn't have a great target there, but these highs over here might still be worth looking at 94.54 on the contract I'm looking at here. Okay, so high lows, high highs. It still looks like it's in that sort of back into that proper bullish zone. Right, moving across then into the world of crypto, he says. So crypto, now I think I might have said it yesterday, but it was allegedly seen as a safety area, and people started pinning the hopes of safety on it. Well, it's not really showing that at the moment. The US dollar is seeing much more strength, and for whatever reasons, the crypto market, whether you're looking at Bitcoin or the altcoins, are selling off. They're we're seeing it through, and I think looking at it, there's I did wonder yesterday with Bitcoin whether we were just seeing a bit of a curl round. Sorry, I'm looking at the weeklies here, just bring it down to the daily. Whether we'd see a bit of the wave over, but it doesn't appear to be. It's just continuing to the downside. So at the moment it's quite bearish, and looking like it could well come back to those prior lows, or at least the trend line, maybe even further. Ethereum, lower highs, same picture really, just looking weak. Now some of them like Cardano is breaking down even further. It's the race to the bottom, it would appear, with some of these at the moment, and some of them which were looking particularly useful when everything else was falling down and pushing up. Well, even that's now running to the downside. Binance, one of the bigger traded ones, broken back through my trend line there, looking again looking like we could see further downside. It is actually finding a bit of support where it is at the moment, but overall the picture's a bit bleak, he says. Indices are all about the same here, downwards. As we're seeing the risk off the markets, we're just, again, I've been making it clear that I'm bearish on this market and would have just stuck on it in a short position on this if I'd been trading it. I don't actually trade it, but there we go. It's as with the Nicky's gap down and stayed down today and looking soft. The Nifty 50, again, big gap down. It's sort of finding a bit of a bounce off the prior lows there, but it's still, to me, if it can break its 21 at some stage, it may get a little bit more positive. I was saying that yesterday, never managed it. At the moment it looks weak as anything else. Looking through I'm just looking for the other markets which I can see at the moment. Then the really key point on the DAX yesterday. I was wondering how this would what would happen here. It broke its lows. Finally, I've had this channel on for a long time. It broke the lows. I was wondering, sometimes you get the lows broken, it just gets spiked through there and pulls back. But this seems pretty certain move, and we saw it didn't just break it yesterday. It closed below it, and it's running back south again, or continuing in that southerly direction, downward direction at the moment. So it looks like we could see the measurement of this channel reproduce itself to the downside if we get an equal throw. The CAC also broke its trend line yesterday. Again, continuation through this morning so far, so looking weak there. Looking at the American markets, I'll come back to the FTSE in a second. American markets all looking weak. We've got some support areas, maybe into the prior lows here at the moment. I was looking at a bit this a while earlier, and it was above that, but it's come back and testing that area at this stage. And the Nasdaq, very weak looking. It's broken out. I mean, the correlation between the Nasdaq and the crypto markets may be pretty reasonable, and well, they're all falling at the moment, so I'd say it was there. Dow Jones is broken the trend the other day. I mean, there's probably another trend to be drawn on this. Let's come out to the weeklies here. Here's horizontal support actually coming up there at 33.12, so around about that area there. So horizontal support coming in just a little bit lower, but a break of that I think we just see a continuation. Looking at the wave structure here, it's also looking like it's got further downside. Talking of wave structures, the S&P's got a similar-ish wave structure. It's a bit easier to see on the dailies, but the old head and shoulder actually is better. It's better on the weeklies, but they're big old head and shouldery pattern. But what I'm really looking at is these waves, last 1, 2, potentially a bigger wave down here on third. Right, FTSE's open. Let's quick look at that before I press on. Okay, that is now breaking down, looking even softer. There is a trend line. If I can draw a trend line on here, it would be good. That's what I want. There is a trend line coming up the lows there, but actually there was a trend line coming up the lows there. It's already broken, so looking soft for the FTSE as well. So there we go. That's the name of the game at the moment. Looking at 10-year the yields, we see when the yields come down when money is going into bonds at the moment, it would suggest the money's going into the 10-year, the T-bills at the moment, 10-year bonds. Money's running into the yields are coming off. So the dollar is strengthening at the same time here. No surprise. Right, that's it for me. Hopefully there's nothing else. Yeah, everything's looking nasty, crypto. Indeed. Yep. So have a great day. I'm afraid it looks all nasty, but for some people, nasty's good. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the morning. Bye for now.